You may have heard him recently on the Moth Radio Hour. He has also performed on the Moth main stage, and he's traveled with the Moth, and we are so thrilled to have him back. Please give it up for Adam Linn.
When I was a kid, my parents split up, and my dad took off, so my mom had to move back in with her parents, my grandparents, which in one way was really lucky, because these were two of the nicest, most humble people you could imagine. And they took care of me, and I'm an only child, like a little prince. So that part was nice. The problem was, they were really, there we go. Problem is, I'm knocking everything down. No, the problem is, they were really old. And I mean, they were even old, like having my mom and having my aunts and uncles and everything. And when you're a kid, everything is new. And you want everything in life to be of its time, which for me should have been the 80s, the mid-80s. But I would come home from school, and my grandfather would be there, and he'd be like, the only time a Republican is happy eating his dinner is if another man is hungry. But Franklin Roosevelt, he put a stop to that crap, didn't he? And I mean, we heard about Franklin Roosevelt so much in my house. I thought he lived with us, or was like a relative. So, and this bifurcation in my life, this, living in the present in school and everything, but then coming home and living in the distant past, that really came to the fore at Christmas time. Because the holidays are all about expectation when you're a kid, and I would just watch TV all the time and be like, Grandpa, buy me this, buy me this, buy me this. I'd be like, yeah. So I remember the year I wanted to get a bike, and I was really I wanted a Mongoose. And it was like this BMX dirt bike, and it had these pads, and it said Mongoose. And it had these big, colorful plastic mag wheels, and my friend Matt Flynn had one, and all his brothers had them. And I said, Grandpa, can you get me this Mongoose? He's like, yeah, I'll get you a bicycle, don't worry. And I come down on Christmas, and there's this little metal bike, and it was called the Green Arrow. And he's like, I was lucky. I found a bike made in Great Britain for you. And it had a metal mud guard in the front and in the back, and a little basket, and these little handlebars that were like this far apart. I looked like something Mary Poppins would ride. And so, okay, so that was the bike. So then the next year, it was time for Atari. Everybody had Atari. I was dying for Atari. And I'm like, Grandpa, please, the only thing I want is Atari. And he looked like I'd shot him. He's like, he runs to my grandmother, and he's like, Fran, you know what the kid wants? He wants Atari. I just read about this in the Globe. It's this box out of Japan. You hook it up to the television, ruins your reception, short circuits, burns the house down. That's what Atari is. It's going to burn the house down. He's like, boy, if you want to learn about electronics, I'll get you a crystal set. Now, I'm amazed anyone is laughing, because I was going to say, unless you are 85 years old, you may not know what a crystal set is, and they were popular before the time of radio. And it's a board with some little pins, and you attach wires to it, and there's a crystal, and you slide a little piece of copper wire in through this earpiece. You look like you're in a World War II submarine. You hear something, and it might be a radio broadcast, it might not be, and I'd be like, WBZ, they say there's going to be snow tomorrow, so all the other, I couldn't even enjoy jokes of the era. I mean, everyone else is like, oh, my uncle's such a loser, he listens to the Bee Gees on an 8-track. I'm like, I would kill for an 8-track. I am playing with a toy from World War I. I mean, give me a break. And it turned out, and I understand it now. I mean, my grandparents were so old, they weren't into Christmas. Christmas can be a lot of work, and my grandfather didn't like getting out all the old ornaments. I mean, we had ornaments that had been broken since my mother was a kid, with like tape that was 40 years old on them and everything. He would get them all out and put them around. He's like, Christmas isn't about cutting down a tree, it's about getting a little peace and quiet. So I utterly rebelled. I was so tired of this Depression-era, humble house. This was the 80s. I just began to model myself after Alex Keaton from Family Ties. Okay? I was like, I said, I'm going to grow up, and I'm going to be really rich, and I'm going to get like a duplex on Madison Ave, and I'm going to be friends with Martha Stewart and get like a huge tree, And a distant cousin took pity on me and knew that I wanted to be a preppy more than anything. And she got me this sweater. It was a ski sweater with little reindeer on the front that had little cubicle antlers that kind of looked like Space Invaders on Atari. So I really loved that sweater. And I used to dream of the perfect Christmas. And I would go and I'd stand in front of the tree and I'd try and stand in front of all the corny old ornaments so you couldn't see them. And I would always pour eggnog into this little snifter, and I thought I had like the right level. And I'd stand there and kind of be like, Christmas by Ralph Lauren. And this was my dream, to have this perfect Christmas. Well, fast forward, I'm in my 30s, I'm living in New York, but I don't have a duplex on Madison Ave, it turns out. I'm sleeping on my friend Sal's couch up in Washington Heights because my longtime girlfriend Rachel and I had broken up. And we had a baby together, my daughter Zoe, and we just couldn't stop fighting. We could not get along. And I moved out, and there I am on Sal's couch, and he's like a total bachelor, so there were like dirty socks and like bags of Funyuns everywhere in the apartment. And Christmas is coming, and I was so low. I was so depressed, and I was so racked with guilt because I thought, here I was, this guy, I'm gonna have a perfect Christmas, I'm having like no Christmas. I'm making $13 an hour. What am I gonna do? I go out and buy for my daughter Zoe this stuffed alligator and this little dog that plays music when you turn the tail. And I'm thinking, well, at least on Christmas, I'll go over to Brooklyn and we'll have a great time. But like 3 days before Christmas, I go see this lawyer that I got through the state. It was like $35 to talk to a lawyer for half an hour about custody and things like that. And she's like, what are you up to? And I'm like, I'm so down. It's Christmas and everything. And, at least I got these toys I'm going to bring in to my daughter. She's like, you're going to do what? And I'm like, well, I'm going to bring these toys over on Christmas. She's like, no, you're not. You cannot be alone with your ex and your daughter. Meet her in a public place. Do it at a park or at a library or something. I'm like, you want me to celebrate Christmas in a library? It's probably not going to be open. And she's like, well, I don't know what you're going to do. Go to a restaurant or something. So I call my ex, Rachel, I'm like, you know what, it turns out maybe it'd be better if we meet in a restaurant. And so, we don't have a ton of money or anything. The only restaurant we can figure out that's open is an Indian restaurant in the East Village. So it's Christmas, and I go over there and I have this bag from Trader Joe's with all the toys in it. And she comes and she's got our daughter with her, and we go in the restaurant, and the door was open, but the restaurant appeared to be closed. Surprisingly, there's no one in there. So we just kind of sit down and we're waiting for a couple minutes, and a waiter comes up oh, someone's here. He brings us over some tea and everything, and we're just sitting there in total silence. I'm like, okay, at least I'm experiencing the worst Christmas ever. If you're gonna do it right. The waiter, the couple of waiters came, and they were young guys, and they're like, do you mind if we put some music on? I'm like, no, please. And they put on this Bollywood pop, and it's really moving. It's got a really good beat to it, and the timbalas are going. There's an Eminem sample, and my daughter Zoe is just loving it. She's bobbing her head and kicking her legs and everything. And the waiters are totally into this. They're so happy that the kid is at least having a good time because they're picking up on the bad vibes in the room. And they bring the food out and everything. And we're sitting there, we're eating, and one of the waiters finally comes over and goes, oh, your daughter really likes the music. I go, yeah, she loves music. And they said, well, would you like us to sing her some Christmas carols? And I'm like, well, no, you don't have to do that. He's like, no, come on, we will. He goes, hold on. And he runs out of the restaurant, and I don't know where he went, whether it was a bodega or another nearby restaurant or something. He comes back with a handful of Santa hats, like 5 or 6 of them. He gives me one, he gives Rachel one. We put them on. Each of the waiters puts them on, and we sing Jingle Bells. And then we sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I only got about 6 of the reindeer out, but we got it out there. And we were having fun. And I realized, I think this is the first time I'd smiled in 3 months. And all I could think about when we were finished was my grandfather and his, Christmas is about peace and quiet. And I was like, well, it's certainly not quiet. It's pretty loud in here with the Indian pop and everything. But it's the first time, that I'm feeling some peace in a very long time. And so the tableau of me with the shrimp biryani in front of us and the Santa hat, it wasn't at all the perfect Christmas that I'd imagined as a kid, but it was perfect enough. Thanks.
Yum's the word